Hey guys, and welcome back to NTom and Volk's Spot of PC. This month, we're going to start things off by taking a look at, I guess you could call it a puzzle game. I thought it was a sim game, but no, I was wrong, and I thank Wikipedia for ridding me of my ignorance every day of every month of every year. This is Papers, Please, where you essentially play a border control agent. Kind of topical given the current year and all that, but I'll let Volk do the non-political explanation of what it's all about. So, what is it all about, mate?
Well, as you mentioned, you play the role of a border-crossing immigration officer, and your task is to ensure that the right people are getting through to the glorious country of Arstotzka, or I think that's how you pronounce it. And over the course of the game, you'll be met with moral dilemmas and world events that affect how you do your job, whether it's by loosening restrictions, which you have to be careful of, or indeed strengthening them, which you have to make sure you get all of the paperwork in order, otherwise you ain't getting in.
Yeah.
The game kind of evolves as the day goes on, so it starts off relatively simple. If they have an Arstotzka passport, stamp it, let them through, job's a good one. But then you'll find that a few later you'll end up with, say, you'll have to have like a vaccination certificate with your passport and everything, and if it isn't all up to date, they can't get in.
Okay.
And it presents all sorts of different extra choices and dilemmas that you have to face. Wanted criminals that you may have to keep an eye out for. So it adds more progressively. It adds it nice and gradually, so it's not too difficult to get into. It eases you in, luckily.
So we're not going to get the tricksters right off the bat, then?
No, usually they start coming in about day 3 or 4, I would say, or at least the really obvious ones, I would say. This is me just testing things. Obviously, you get your approved and denied stamp, and then you stamp whichever one is the correct one for that one. Since obviously that one had an Arstotzka passport, you was free to go through.
Yeah, but as we go forward, you're going to have to pay attention to the fine print, because if you let someone in who's not supposed to be there, you and your family will reap the wind, so to speak, by getting penalised, I believe, just like less money, or even being fired, I believe. Is that when the game ends, you getting fired?
Yeah, either getting fired, starved to death, executed. A whole number of things can actually end your career. With the passports, you have to look out for other things as well. It's not just enough to have an Arstotzka passport, it also has to be approved by issuing cities. So they may have an Arstotzka passport, but unless it's from an issuing city that's valid, then obviously that's a fake one and they can't use that to get in. And of course the passport also contains other information such as the person's name, date of birth, the expiry date, and those are all things you have to look out for in terms of conflictions as you go through the game.
Not entirely sure how I feel about the armed soldier slash police officer over there. It's not the most friendly of border crossing places, I gotta say.
Well, it is a dystopian future, so it plays the part. But things will get a lot more stricter in security, because as you go through the game, you'll get, like, terrorist attacks and threats and other such things, and obviously, if somebody tries to go in past the border, you obviously don't want that to happen.
What happened there? You gave him the approved and denied. He's in purgatory now. He doesn't know where he's going.
Yeah, I wanted to test something out just in case it was something that would be relevant later on, where you stamp to approve it, but then you notice a mistake.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if you approved it already, then you can give it the denied one immediately after, and I believe the last one you pressed would be the one that will go through. So, if you approve it and then think, wait a minute, something's not right, then there's no need to panic. You can rectify any and all mistakes you make. Well, until you let them go through, in which case it's kind of out of your hands.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you come across Papers, Please, mate? How were you introduced to it?
This was a game that was very much talked about when it first came out. Like, a lot of popular YouTubers were getting in on it, and that was kind of where my introduction to it went. But I held off because, as I do, I usually hold off for Steam sales and the like, and as soon as it went on sale for about 50% or so, that was when I lapped this thing up. And it's as good as they say. It is very, very compelling, and it gives you a lot to do and a lot to manage. So It's not as easy as stamping a thing and giving it to them. There's tons of stuff you got to be careful of, and obviously you don't want to get fired from the first 2 days of the job because you weren't paying attention.
Ah, I see. So you've got a wife, a son, a mother-in-law, and an uncle to take care of.
And obviously your dwellings as well, so obviously rent is something that's mandatory, you can't not pay that, but if you're feeling the burn a bit in terms of savings, you can withgo food or water just for a little bit, just to kind of get some extra money to get you through the day.
Well, I'm not sure which I'd rather go without, like food or warmth. I've gone without both before, and I can tell you it's not a particularly pleasant experience.
Definitely not. Say between the two, I guess the warmth side of things, because you could always bundle up in clothes if you have an abundance of them.
Yeah, for sure.
So with this one, we've got to look up various bits of information about the passport, and it actually gives you the offer to investigate conflicting information, because sometimes it's not always a simple case of deny anybody who has incorrect information or lack of information. Sometimes if you interrogate them, they'll be like, oh, I forgot to give you this piece of paper, and then they'll just give you the piece of paper, and turns out everything is hunky-dory.
Ah, okay.
It's very, very important that you press every issue, because it isn't always a case of, oh, there's a problem, that must be it. Sometimes there are good reasons for it.
You're good. In you go.
Cause no trouble.
God, this really is a dystopian future. Would it kill you to splash some yellow, or like green, or some purple anywhere? You know, just make it nice and colourful, make people want to come to Arstotzka.
Well, the passports are colourful, at the very least.
Yeah, I suppose.
So there we go, that's an expired passport. Just renewed it? I think not. If you did, that would be a renewed passport. Go away.
Yeah, fuck off. Glory to this particular place in general.
But yeah, sometimes you'll have moral dilemmas which can actually affect what endings you get. Like, sometimes you'll have someone who's a spouse of a citizen and they don't have the appropriate paperwork.
Aww.
Sometimes you may have to go into a position where, do I take the hit on this one potentially and let them through anyway? Doing that enough time may earn you favour in certain circles, and it'll affect your ending in different ways. Like, there may be a rebel group aiming to take on the regime, which they may invite you to be a part of.
Why's Jim Sterling trying to get into Arstotzka? This doesn't make a lick of sense.
I think he's trying to escape all the people that are sending him threatening emails. See, he hasn't even got his hat on. He's going completely incognito.
Go, and give tens to everything, my friend. All glory to Breath of the Wild.
Oh, jeez. So with the passports, you've also got to check the front as well, because obviously you've got diplomatic seals which you need to keep an eye on, and those seals can change. Or they may just end up trying to get away with a fake one, in which case they're going to try and bum you off of a fake passport in that regard as well.
You don't look like a woman. Denied!
Yeah, that one caught me off as well. It's just like, wait, female? That can't be right.
So I guess, like, the tipping point for each day is whether you've been speedy enough to, I don't know, make ends meet, I guess. Because, you know, you've got to be thorough, but you've also got to be quick about it as well, because there's a limited time each day, and not everyone's going to get past that border.
Yeah, and it's a really, really big time management thing, because obviously you want to make sure you get as many as you can, because the more that you approve or deny, the more money you get at the end of each day. It's not necessarily the case you get paid for each one you approve, it's how many you go through in total. So obviously, if you're in a case of you're pretty comfortable, you can kind of afford to take your time, but you always have to be wary about how many people you're getting through. Because obviously, if you can build yourself a bit of a nest egg, that will save you in the long run from mistakes and things like that. Uh-oh, someone's trying to jump the border.
Oh, Jesus. Oh my god! Jesus!
Yep, within day 2 you're already experiencing your first terror attack. And this is when they start bumping up security. It's no longer enough just to have a passport that's valid from another neighbouring country. You've got to have permits and things like that as well that you have to fork over on top of all your other legal documents. And this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated, because obviously with each extra element you add in, that's just more stuff for you to check, and to also check against everything else you've had prior.
A bit more added on top of everything else we have to adhere to now.
Yep, so in our rulebook here, if we find someone without all the documents they need, we obviously have to interrogate them on that, and it may be a case of, oh, I forgot to give it to you, here it is, or they may not have one, in which case, sorry, but you have to go the other way. I'm so glad we don't live in any kind of dystopia right now.
Are you sure
This seems like
that?
way too much work.
Are you really sure about that right now?
Well, we're getting there, I will admit, but hopefully reason will rise to the task.
I love the aesthetic of the game. I make fun of like how grey it is, but that's kind of the point. And I usually roll my eyes at, you know, the 8-bit nature of indies nowadays, the overabundance, oversaturation of it. But I think it works for this game. It kind of reminds me of old point-and-click games more than anything.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think of which ones in particular it would actually remind me of.
I'm thinking of like old Sierra games, like Monkey Island and whatnot.
Ah, yeah, that's fair enough. But yes, all the dark and dreary colours are very much indicative of a dystopia. It's kind of what I think of. There have been a couple which have been exceptions to the rule. Like, there's a board game that's kind of based around building the perfect dystopia, and that's full of, like, bright colours. But I guess they're sort of like to build themselves up as this glorious empire, when the reality is, everything's a bit shit, really.
I'm waiting for one particular NPC to pop up. He's like a little gnome guy. He always makes me laugh.
Oh, I think I know the guy you mean. Yes, he is one of the many recurring characters throughout this game. And I think you pretty much see him in every other day, I think. He comes by like a good half dozen or so times, each time with more zany ideas and prospects than the last.
Well, Macy hasn't been shot yet, to be honest with you.
Oh, he's got a chill on him.
Yeah, this guy looks like an 80-30 character.
Yeah, it really does. Maybe we can give him that hooker card we just got. I think he'd be able to get quite a few... he might be able to get quite a few birds with that.
Hey, don't assume his kinks, okay? He's come here to start a new life.
Well, unfortunately, he doesn't have a valid entry ticket.
No, if you can't just say please and get access to the glorious Arstotzka, okay? Fuck off and take your little ticket with you.
Well, he's got a good chin, but you need more than a good chin, honestly.
He has no eyes, Volk. He has no eyes.
Kind of looks like the fifth member of the Beatles.
Well, that was
I think it's the sideburns more than anything.
Ah, true.
As you kind of get used to the mechanics and such, you do kind of get the hang of flicking through all these documents relatively quickly. You build up a lightning fast finger to flip through your little rulebook to find the exact countries in which the passport belongs to, checking against all the information.
So have you actually completed the game, Volk?
Yes, I have actually completed it once or twice. I got a couple of different endings. I won't spoil them here because, obviously, we want people to play and experience that for themselves, but I will say, the whole thing about the, rebels and such definitely rings true. You will, at some stage, I believe, be contacted by somebody called Ezek. And, yeah, if you go down certain paths, you'll end up doing things for them as well.
Jesus, branching paths is not something I'd expect to have, like, such a simple game like this, honestly.
It gives a good replay value because of it. There's 20 endings in total, and there's also an endless mode to go through as well.
Oh my god, that's just like real life. No thank you.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving, I don't think you're entirely female.
Yeah, sorry. I loved you in Lord of the Rings, especially The Matrix. You ain't getting in here. Be on your merry way.
Then he comes back as Megatron and just blows up the entire country.
Look, I know it's you, okay? You may, like, be doing a robot voice, but I can tell it's you.
Hey, it's your gnome friend!
It's Pat from Two Best Friends. The greatest country, the best country of them all.
Just trying to figure out what to do here, because... I thought, maybe if I close the gate, he'll go away. But obviously, in this situation, it actually gives you a piece of paper to say, yeah, this dude has no documents, so review page 2 of today's bulletin for full instructions. So
he has no documents on him, man. The guy has balls of titanium.
I bet he was banking on his charisma to get him through. But yeah, he'll bring like a really crudely drawn passport at one point, I believe.
Well,
like really crudely drawn, like a 4-year-old did it with a crayon or something.
Oh, I hope we get to see that.
I'm pretty sure we do. I think I managed to capture that one. The thing is, all the days are predetermined in a way, but they are a little bit on the random side as well. Like, there may be 1 or 2 events that remain consistent, but you can't always count on it being exactly the same. So if you make a mistake and opt to restart the day, then obviously there's going to be a few curveballs you might not have gotten the first time around.
Wario has fallen on hard times.
Wah.
Wah, I come here to start a new life.
Well, all your documents are in check. May Wario Land 4 be a success.
Wasn't there actually a Wario Land 4, or am I thinking of another game?
No, I'm pretty sure there is. It may be under a different name, though. Oh my god, it's Ace Ventura!
I was gonna say Lucas, honestly. Alright, that checks out. Welcome to the most glorious country in the world.
I noticed his portrait didn't have the quiff either, so I had my doubts initially, but I thought, it's a quiff.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters too much at the end of the day.
Yeah, you don't need to tailor your hairstyle around your passport 100% of the time, it's fine.
Although there will be occasions where the passport photo is blatantly different from what's there now, and that's when another aspect of the game comes in, where you have to take fingerprints and make sure that it is the actual person.
Jesus.
And that also applies to people with multiple names and aliases as well. It'll actually tell you on the fingerprint scanner like what other aliases they had, and if they do have an alias that matches, then obviously they can come through. But if it says no aliases, obviously they're lying shitheads and they need to be shown the door.
Oh, we've got armed guards on the other side of the border now. This is getting a bit intense.
I think towards the end you'll have people like completely run down the barrier with like vans and such. It gets really, really intense. So at this point now you gotta have an entry permit for if you wish to work in our glorious country. And that'll be things you'll have to keep an eye on as well. And to help you with this, they also give you a audio transcriber where it will actually print out all the things that they've said. So if they say, oh, I've come to work here for 2 days and yet their permit is for 2 months, then obviously there's something wrong there and you have to kind of put them up on it.
Ah, Stanley Kubrick. I thought you were dead.
I actually thought that was kind of like Marlon Brando, whoever that guy
yeah,
was.
it is more Marlon Brando, yeah.
Or that guy who was Kane and the Undertaker's dad or something like that. I can't remember his name. Paul Bearer.
Yeah, there you go. I only like recently got the pun of his name. Like he's a pallbearer.
It was actually pretty clever, isn't it? Yep, all in order.
Don't cause trouble, they'll shoot you. Next!
I think you'd be pretty good at this job, you got the voice for it.
Not sure whether I should take that as a compliment or not.
Isn't that Miss Finkster from Recess?
I hope so, she's lost a lot of weight.
Is it Finkster? I can't remember her exact name.
It's Miss Finster, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Obviously, there are still people trying to use their standard small entry tickets, and we're not allowing those now. So if they bring in one of those, you got to turn them away.
So I guess, like, before we end, why don't you tell me a bit about the people who created the game, mate?
Well, there's not a huge amount to say. Hold on, let me see if I can look this up real quick.
Well, I know it was developed by, Lucas Pope.
Yeah, Lucas Pope. Papers, please. Like, I know there's something about what inspired him to actually create the game. Let me see here. It says here, Pope came upon the idea of passport checking as a gameplay mechanic after witnessing the behavior of immigration officers through his own international travels. He coupled this with a narrative inspired by spy thriller films, having the immigration officer be one to challenge spies trying to move in or out the country with fake travel documents. He was able to build on principles and concepts from some of his earlier games, including The Republic of Times, from which he borrowed the setting of Arstotzka from. Pope publicly shared the details of the game's development from its onset, leading to high interest in the title, and encouraging him to put more effort into the title. Though he had initially planned on only spending a few weeks, Pope ended up spending about 9 months on the title.
Apparently he's sick of it these days. I mean, he obviously likes the game, but I doubt he's gonna, like, be pumping out DLC from now on.
Nah, I guess it kind of suffers from, like, the Doctor Who thing, where once you play as Doctor Who, it becomes the only thing you're ever known for, and you have to try and kind of rebuild your own personal identity to separate yourself from that. Another thing I did forget to mention with this particular day is that also, if you are an Arstotzkan resident, you also have to have a valid ID card, which you also have to check against everything else. So yeah, even if you are native to this country, you're not entirely at a pass yet. You gotta make sure your ID card matches.
Is everything in order here? I'm trying to scan the details as fast as I can.
Well, let's see. The passport number's okay. Name's okay as well. Actually, that's one thing I did have to check. Ah, there you go. It's Olgja. Apparently her name was changed recently, so now we give her the old fingerprint scanner.
Is that right? I think it is.
I don't know, it says no known aliases, so she is obviously lying.
I would have taken the risk, personally.
She does have no known aliases, so she's clearly lying about that one. Oh, but it seems like an odd name change, just changing one letter.
Oh man, that can... Oh, it's him again!
Look
come
at that
on!
thing!
Come on!
I like the idea that it has Bestberg and Cobra Stan. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, okay.
1, 2, 3, Fake Street. Nice, seems legit.
But yeah, the one thing I decided to point him out on, before anything else, is he has no entry permit.
I like if you press the discrepancy checker button and the whole thing just imploded in on itself.
Just like the sheer, like, nonsensicalness of its existence just becomes too much to bear and it just explodes.
Yeah.
So, he has an ID card, but no passport.
Gotta have a passport, man. Them's the rules.
Do you have your passport? What is passport? So if they don't have a passport, you can still reject them. You get a temporary slip. Stamp that bad boy up, and there you go. You can deny them without needing the passport to do so. I would have liked just taking their head and then just stamping it, and just sending them back on their way.
Denied.
And no, the whole world will know it. And every time he looks in the mirror.
So, any closing thoughts on Papers, Please, before we end things here, mate?
It is, well, there's not much negative to say about it. It's a very, very fun game, especially if you like the idea of having to manage multiple things and trying to build up a quick efficiency about it, as it were. And if you're the kind of person that likes multiple endings and branching paths and all that, and like a bit of replay value, this game definitely has that as well. So yeah, I think you'd very much enjoy this. I'd say even at full price, it's probably worth it. But of course, it is an older game, so it does tend to go up on sales more often these days than it did back when it was within the first few months of its release. So
Of course, yeah.
it might be worth waiting a while, but if you feel like this is something you can't wait to get your hands on, then certainly, give it a go.
I know people have, I wouldn't say been, breaking down our walls for us to play this, but there have been a few mentions here and there. And I think when we were, kicking around the idea of Spot of PC to begin with, Papers, Please did make the rounds a fair bit. So, hey, there you go, there's one off the checklist.
True that, and hopefully we'll be able to get a few more out the way as well. So, of course, if you do have any suggestions, keep them coming, and hopefully we will be able to obligate you at some point down the line. No guarantees, but we'll try and make an effort, especially if the game's good.
I'm just gonna deny you because you're ugly, honestly. No prejudices here.
Damn, you have absolutely no chill.
Well, at least our family's alive at this point. I wouldn't say doing okay, but they're alive at the very least.
And that shall just about take care of it, so tune in next time for the next episode of Spot of PC.
Bye for now.